Krishna, Prabhuji. Are you there on the call?
Hare Krishna, yes, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity, your valuable time and association this morning. So without further ado, I would like to hand over the call to you now. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chaksharunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadadi Surapadantikam Vandeyaham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lita Shri Vishakha Vidhamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Jayapataka Swampi Namini Namacharya Padaya Nitai Kripadarni Gaura Kathatam Dharina Kagramatarini Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swampi Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishisha Shunyavadi Pashyati Adeshatavani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauravani Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Before we go to Srimad Bhagavatam, we want to speak a few words about Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. In central timing, his disappearance day is tomorrow, and so we're going to speak a few words about him. Vrindavan Das Thakur, his mother's name is Narayani Devi. We have read about his name in the Chaitanya Bhagavata, and Narayani Devi, she was the daughter of Srivas Thakur's brother. So in the Chaitanya Bhagavata, it is written that the golden moon, that is Lord Gauranga, he revealed himself as the soul of all souls. At that time, he ordered Narayani to chant the name of Krishna. Although she was only 4 years old, she became mad with love of God, and crying, "O Krishna," she swooned in ecstasy as she laid on the ground in a trance of bliss, her eyes filled with tears, overwhelmed with divine love. So in this way, Vrindavan Das Thakur, he took birth 4 years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas. So that was with Keshava Bharati. So in the Sri Krishnadas, so in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, again Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he writes about the glories of Vrindavan Das Thakur. So Vrindavan Das Thakur is basically the nephew of Srivas Pandit. So Krishna's life was written, so he compares Vrindavan Das Thakur with Veda Vyas. So sage Veda Vyasa, who is the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the same way the Chaitanya Bhagavata was written by Vrindavan Das Thakur. So Krishna's life was written in the Srimad Bhagavatam of Vyasa. In the same way, the Veda Vyasa of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Vrindavan Das Thakur. This is according to, this is what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes. Vrindavan Das, when he first wrote his book, he called his book, we know that as Chaitanya Mangala. But then what happened was, we had Lochana Das Thakur. He wrote also a book called Chaitanya Mangala, and then there was a confusion of what to do about it. So the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they all assembled there, and under the leadership of Jiva Goswami, and then they gave the name Chaitanya Bhagavata to the book written by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, and the book written by Lochana Das Thakur remained as Chaitanya Mangala. So so Krishnadas Kaviraj says that whoever hears the book written by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, that is Chaitanya Bhagavata, that no grave misfortunes shall befall the person and who reads it knows the glories of Lord Chaitanya and Nitai, and knows what is Krishna Bhakti and how it is and why. His book contains the essence of the holy Bhagavatam, and it shows that Krishna Bhakti is what is Krishna Bhakti and what is not Bhakti. So, and even an atheist who hears Vrindavan Das Thakur's words, he will soon relent and join the ranks of the saintly men whose souls have been sent here to this earth to purify the individual jiva souls. So the ordinary man can sing of God. Okay, so the Lord himself has spoken through the tongue of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. So Krishnadas Kaviraj here, he bows down 1,000,000 times at the lotus feet of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. And he says that the verses spoken by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur are so sweet that when one reads them, they shall be freed from this dark mortal earth. And he bows down again 1,000,000 times before the place where Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur took birth. So this part is written in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Antya Leela again, in the 20th chapter, again he praises Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He praises Vrindavan Das Thakur by saying that he is Lord Nityananda's favorite devotee, and therefore he is the original Veda Vyasa, and describing the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we can see that when we see there are so many biographies of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and each one of them is has described different aspects of Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Bhagavata is very elaborate if we see in the Adi Leela pastimes, the beginning pastimes in Navadvip. It's pretty elaborate, but then it becomes thinner and thinner in size as the pastimes after sannyasa, and especially the pastimes after Mahaprabhu left Navadvip. It's very minimal in Chaitanya Bhagavata, but Chaitanya Bhagavata, the size of Chaitanya Bhagavata is almost twice the size of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's a pretty elaborate book, and it's very rich in pastimes and very rich in the activities of Mahaprabhu in his earlier days. And but in contrast to that, if we see Chaitanya Charitamrita, you have a mix of pastimes. You also have a lot of philosophy in it, and it is more. It covers the breadth of Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes from his appearance all the way till all his pastimes in Jagannath Puri. And but again, in Krishnadas Kaviraj, when he explains the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he keeps repeating that he does not want to increase the volume of Chaitanya Charitamrita by repeating all what is said in the Chaitanya Bhagavata by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. And so in the Antya Leela, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's clearly said there that in the 20th chapter, that Vrindavan Das Thakur is a very favorite devotee of Lord Nityananda, and therefore he is the original. Again, he repeats that he is the original Veda sage Vyasadeva in describing the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And just as how Sri Vyasadeva described Krishna's pastimes, in the Bhagavatam and other Puranas, Vrindavan Das Thakur has described the Chaitanya Leela in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam. So it's such a wonderful book, and that it could not be written. So this part is written in the Adi Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That the Vrindavan Das Thakur's biography of Mahaprabhu is a very wonderful pastime written by it seems that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has spoken through the mouth of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, and that he offers millions of respects unto the lotus feet of Vrindavan Das Thakur. And by compiling such a valuable book, he has delivered everyone from the cycle of birth and death. And this is in the 8th chapter of the Adi Leela. And his Samadhi, Vrindavan Das Thakur's Samadhi is one of the 64 Samadhis in the Vrindavan, in the area of Vrindavan. And so this we can see from different biographies of Mahaprabhu, how they all cover different aspects, like the Chaitanya Mangala, written by Lochanadas Thakur, covers more of the mellows and the rasas exhibited by Mahaprabhu. And some of the distinct pastimes with respect to the flavors that he exhibited is covered by Prabodhananda Saraswati in his Chaitanya Chandramrita. And then there is another pastime biography called Krishna Chaitanya Charita Mahakavya, written by Murari Gupta. So, but the first biography that was presented was by Vrindavan Das Thakur, and so we want to speak a few words about him today. And we'll move on to Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 4.23. The 24th chapter and 77th verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Nashtapraye Swabadheshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Vindate Purusho Mushmad Yadyadichati Asatvaram Madgita Gita Suprithaj Shreyasam Yekavallabhat. Vindate Purusho Mushmad Yadyadichati Asatvaram Madgita Gita Suprithaj Shreyasam Yekavallabhat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the dearmost objective of all auspicious benedictions. A human being who sings this song, sung by me, can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee, being fixed in the Lord's devotional service, can acquire whatever he wants from the Supreme Lord. Purport. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 6.22, Yam laktva chaparam labham manyate narikam tataha. If one can attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has nothing to aspire for, nor does he desire any other gain. When Dhruva Maharaj became perfect by austerity and saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, he was offered any kind of benediction he wanted. However, Dhruva replied that he did not want anything, for he was perfectly satisfied with the benediction of seeing the Lord. Except for the service of the Supreme Lord, whatever we want is called illusion, Maya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Jivera Swarupa Haya Krishnera Nityadas. Every living entity is an eternal servant of the Lord. Chaitanya Charitamrita 20.108. Therefore, when one engages in the service of the Lord, he realizes the highest perfection of life. A faithful servant can fulfill any desire by the grace of the Master, and one who engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord has nothing to aspire for separately. All his desires are fulfilled simply by engaging constantly in the Lord's loving service. Lord Shiva shows us that any devotee can be successful simply by chanting the prayers which he has recited. So we have three learning objectives for this purport that we will discuss this morning. The first, what does it mean by a devotee can acquire whatever he wants from the Supreme Lord? Number two, the second learning objective, in spite of this statement, why does a devotee not desire any other gain? Third, here, Lord Shiva speaks about chanting his prayers. So what is the goal of chanting the glories of the Lord, or Sankirtan? Let's start with the first learning objective. What does it mean by that devotee can acquire whatever he wants from the Supreme Lord? Akamaha sarvakamo va mokshakama. So in the Bhagavatam, in the second canto, it said that a person who has a broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring any liberation, by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. So that means that we may desire anything. We may desire material benefits. We may not desire material benefits. We may be desiring liberation. For anything, please worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this means that generally those who seek material benefits, they approach the different demigods who in return satisfy their prayers. But one cannot obtain any result from the demigods but without getting the sanction of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, a person with a broader outlook, so the vidi is to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the avidi, so what is not in the broader outlook, is to not take this approach. Therefore, a person with a broader outlook can see that the ultimate authority is the Supreme Lord. So, even if it is for material benefits, under the circumstances, somebody with a broader outlook, even with a desire for material enjoyment or for liberation, should take the worship of the Lord directly. And it is not uncommon that individual souls turn towards the Lord from material circumstances, because Krishna himself has said that. So it is not unusual that someone, an individual soul, turns to the Lord purely out of love of Godhead. It is those kind of that's not uncommon. It's common that people are not going to follow that path directly to start with, because Krishna himself says, "Artho jignasu artarthi jnani cha bhartarshapa." So those who are already under the influence of material nature, artho jignasu artarthi, those who are always busy with fruitive activities, they come to Lord in these four circumstances. So one is those who are in distress, artho arti. And at the time, they associate with the pure devotees. And in their distress, they become devotees of the Lord. And there are many examples of that in the scripture. Those who are simply frustrated, they are also coming to associate with the pure devotees, and they become inquisitive to know about the jignasu. They become inquisitive to know about God. And then you also have the dry philosophers who are also frustrated in every field of knowledge. And they also sometimes want to learn about God. And they come to the Supreme Lord and render service to the personality of Godhead, and thus transcend the knowledge of whatever they've obtained so far, whether it is in the Brahman platform or whether it is in the Paramatma platform as a yogi. And then they become a devotee and understand the Bhagavan feature of the Lord. So vadanti tatvidam tattvam vijnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdete. Bhagavan is the last word in the three stages of realization as explained by Jiva Goswami. And so they finally come to the Bhagavan feature, where it's a personal conception of Godhead, and this happens by the grace of the Supreme Lord or his pure devotee. And by and large, it is by his pure devotee. That's the general mechanism through which this jnani cha bhartarshapa. So this is what Krishna artho jignasu artati jnani cha bhartarshapa. So what we see here is whether even if it is for among the liberation, there are 5 kinds of liberation. The 4 kinds are liberations in the Vaikuntha planet, like Salokya, Sarupya. So you go to the Vaikuntha planet, but then there is one which is outside the Vaikuntha planet, which is called as the Sayujya Mukti, which is the impersonal liberation. But even for such an impersonalist who does not have any faith in the personality of Godhead, and who thinks that all there is the individual soul, and who, even if they are in the concept that all there is the only they who have developed their consciousness, the level of understanding only to the level of Brahman realization, even for such a person, It is Krishna who has to finally give that liberation. That's what this verse is saying. So any benediction, whether one has faith or not, it's even then out of the costless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna gives that liberation. So that means because on one by oneself, one cannot get liberated out of the material existence, no matter what kind of austerity one performs. One may perform very, very severe austerities. And in spite of such austerities, it's finally Krishna who gives the liberation from the material existence. Devi he is a Gunamayi, Mamamaya, Duratyaya, Mami Prapadyate, Maya Metam Tarantite. So if you want to cross the ocean of material existence, Maya Metam Tarantite, the way in which it can be done is Devi he is a Gunamayi, that the modes of material nature are under the control, they are under the control of the Supreme Lord. That means it is not possible to get out the stringent grips of the material nature. Devi he is a Gulami. Mama Maya Duratyaya. Duratyaya says that it is not possible to get out of it. But the way to cross that is to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even those who see impersonal liberation, Sayujya Mukti, they, even if they are not aware of it, Krishna gives them the benediction of that liberation. So it is getting out of liberated or liberating oneself out of the Supreme Personality, but liberating oneself out of the material clutches always happens by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because Krishna is so kind, and he does that. So a person, so in this regard, we can also see Madhvacharya also says the same thing. So he says, Yekastaneka karyatvat Vishnu pradan yatastatha. That means that if one, this is from a scripture called Brahma Tarka. So Vishnu, he says Vishnu, this is the supreme. Since Vishnu is the supreme, by worshipping Vishnu, one can fulfill all one's desires, and there is no need to divert one's attention to any demigod. So, approaching Vishnu, everything else is satisfied. Every other devata, they are satisfied. So, practically, it is impossible to worship all the devatas, and so by worshipping the Supreme, so Madhvacharya cites this verse, and then in his Brahmatarka. So, and then, but we can see that, and how is it that we are going to be rendering service to the Supreme Lord? It is by chanting his name, even though the 9 processes are illustrated by Prahlad Maharaj, Shravanam, Kirtanam. So hearing and chanting, so we chant the names of Krishna and we hear the name, and everything is contained. The name is non-different from Krishna's form, pastimes, the place where he resides, in the Bhagavan feature, in his transcendental feature, everything is there. Everything, and the name and the nama or the name is non-different. And this, the name or nama will be merciful, and it can give anything. So if one wants money, it gives. If one wants to maintain oneself, and then if one wants a residence in a higher planetary system like Swarga, the heavenly planets, it gives. So the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee is called Asura, and that is covered in the verse before the one we said, Arthu Arthat Jignasu. The one before that talks about the Asura. That's a devotee. He knows that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that everything that anyone derives, they derive the power from Vishnu. Without worshipping the devatas for particular powers, a devotee worships Lord Vishnu, knowing that if he desires a particular power, he can get that power while acting as Lord Vishnu's devotee. So, however, even when we are chanting, so what this states is, if even when we are chanting in the Nama Abhasha stage, that is when there's semblance of the stage of where there is it's like semblance of chanting the Lord's names, it is still considered very auspicious. It is considered the chief of the pious activities, that by accumulation of such, even the Nama Abhasha activity, one can eventually gain faith to accept the devotional service. And this is Bhakti Vinod Thakur states this, and to lead one to the path of pure bhakti, and it will transform someday to Shuddha Nama, or pure chanting of the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As long as one is not committing offenses, the Nama Aparada, the Nama Abhasha can still give all kinds of benedictions, whether it is in the material realm, whether it is in the, or whether, and it will, and transcend one to the stage of Shuddha Nama, or pure chanting. So even in this, what does Namabhash mean? Namabhash means that it is not pure chanting, but it has the appearance of pure chanting. So it's almost to that stage. But one should still understand that there is no aparada there. The offenses of chanting are still not there. The offenses of chanting, we need to transcend that from nama aparad to nama abash, and then move towards shuddha nama. So by chanting in the nama abash, all the sinful activities are destroyed, even in that semblance of chanting, pure chanting. Okay, so nama abash is like it's not the pure Shuddha Nama, but it's like a reflective. It's like semblance. It appears as though it is Shuddha Nama, but it's almost there. By chanting in Nama Abhash, all the sinful activities are destroyed, so that one can attain liberation from the material world. So that means that it's at the devotee's prerogative of whether he wants to get liberated out of the material existence. Many saints have considered, the Vaishnava saints have never considered liberation as their ultimate goal. But we can also see that in even the saints of even in other sampradayas, like in the Sri Vaishnava sampradayas, there are Vaishnava saints called as the Arvars. Even they, two of them, if you say, like one example, they say even if we are born as a fish, they want to be born in a pond in the Tirumala temple. In that mountain there is a lake, a Pushkarani, and there they want to be born in that. Or they're born as a dog, they want to be born in the city of the Sri Rangam temple. So it is there widely in many Vaishnava pastimes, but then it is solidified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by saying that the four goals are still have some material, some kind of a desire associated with it, which is not completely selfless. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he specified this in the Udupi temple when he met with the devotees of Madhvacharya. There he did mention that one needs to not have liberation itself as a goal, liberation also as a goal. So any evil influences that one may have because of unfavorable planets, they're all nullified by even chanting at the Namabhash stage. So even the residents of hellish planets can achieve liberation by chanting in the Namabhash stage, and that it destroys the effects of sinful activities. That is the prarabdha karma, that is already what is committed, and it is crucifying in this lifetime. For these reasons, Namabhash is even more powerful than the Vedas and all the holy places. So it surpasses all the materialistic pious activities of the Karma Kanda. This is according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So let's move on to the next learning objective of the day, which is, in spite of all, any gain that can be obtained. Okay, so Krishna's name is all auspicious, and it does give Sukriti. So it is possible if one wants, one can get Sukriti, and it automatically comes. But the devotee does not desire it. So why does a devotee not desire any other gain? Anya abhilasha sunyam. So there we see anukulyena Krishna anushiranam pratikulya nivarjanam. So that means whatever is favorable, anukulya, whatever is favorable to Krishna, the devotee accepts, and whatever is unfavorable, the devotee does not accept. So one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord favorably and without desire for material profit. So even though one can obtain all kinds of material desires by pure chant, by even the Namabhash stage, because in pure chanting those kind of things are not involved. So in the Namabhash stage, therefore, but still with this, that's not the way we need to go about. So one needs to move from that domain, start moving towards Shuddhanama without a desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. So that is called as pure devotional service. So when we spoke about the four kinds of persons who come to the Supreme Lord, Arto Jajnasu Vartati, Vihanicha Bharatashabha, so for devotion. So they need us, they will be, how does that happen? Because of association with a pure devotee. They also become pure devotee. And then the miscreants, as far as the miscreants are concerned, that is there in the previous verse. So for them, devotional service is very difficult. And why? Because their lives are, number one, they're selfish. Number two, they're irregular. And number three, without spiritual goals. So if you see the miscreants, they all share these three characteristics. One, they're selfish. Number two, they're irregular. So they behave erratically. And then number three, they have no spiritual growth, whether they are the lowest of the mankind, Naradhama, whether they are Maya, Apaharita Jnana, where Maya has completely taken away their knowledge, or also in Bhavam, the one who have demoniac mentality. So whatever feature we take there, so they all have these three features in common. But even for some of them, by chance, when they come in contact with a pure devotee, they have chance of becoming pure devotees themselves. So we are always full of offenses. So that means that those who are not committing so many offenses by the nama bhas, that is semblance of the name. So why is that? Those who are in association with high class Vaishnavas, they are called the Saganuga Vaishnavas. Those who are in the high class, who exhibit spontaneous devotion towards Krishna, and they know all the tattva. They know all the tattva. So they know what is tattva means. So that is that they know who's Krishna, what is rasa, who's Srimati Radhika, or they know what is prema tattva. They know what is the rasa tattva. So all these persons can touch the glories of the holy name when they chant the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And so they don't have any time for the material benefits that can be derived from the chanting, because they are not on the platform. So which platform do they proceed to? Evam Brataha Swapriya Nama Kirtya Satanulago Dridachittam Chehi Satyado Roditi Rauti Gayati Unmadavan Rityati Lokabahyaha. So Hasatyato, such a devotee, without any, they suddenly laugh. I mean, these are the Mahabhavas that are exhibited by the pure devotees when they are chanting the Shuddha Nama in completely outside any material gain. They are not interested. They are not in the platform. So Asatyato, suddenly they laugh. Roditi, they cry. Rauti, their body trembles. Unmadavan, so that Unmadavat means that they become mad. Nrityati, they dance. Lokabahika, you cannot do, they sing Hasatyato, Roditi, Rauti, Gayati, they sing, and then Nrityati, they dance. Lokabahika, without any care for public, they exhibit these kind of symptoms. And we are very careful about falsely exhibiting these symptoms, because these are not symptoms that are exhibited by the Kanishta Adhikaris, the neophyte devotees, or the Madhyama Adhikaris. They are exhibited by those who are in the platform of who are completely in the Raga Bhakti, so who are in the spontaneous devotion. So in Vaidhi Bhakti, these kind of symptoms are not exhibited. And so in the history, we can go and see who has exhibited these kind of pastimes, these kind of symptoms, and we can see them to an extent in the activities of Madhavendra Puri, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has completely exhibited these as the Lord, and he exhibits the kind of things that the symptoms of such a person by saying Nayanam Kalada Shrudharaya, so that his eyes there's tears just flow out of his eyes, and as he narrates the names of Krishna, Yugayatam, Nimishena, Chakshusha, Pradishayatam, so that even a second seems like an age. So beyond, and in the 8th verse, shloka of the Shikshashtakam, he clearly says, Ashlistya Padaratam Pinashtamam. So however Krishna treats him, Krishna is his most worshipable Lord. So Rupa Goswami, so in his Vedatta Madhava, so he writes it that he doesn't know, that Rupa Goswami doesn't know, and he just can't even say, he just fails to express how much nectar is there in the devotional service, in the holy names of Krishna. that there are two syllables there. Krishna has two syllables. It contains so much sweetness. It has such high quality of sweetness. And this sweetness is so aggressive that it captures everything. So this is the Vidakta Madhava is one of the two dramas written by Rupa Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally approved them. One was called Lalita Madhava and Vidakta Madhava. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, if we see in the Madhya Lila, so there it is said that when a Jiva soul makes the mistake of forgetting that that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, that's what Prabhupada says in the purport in this verse, then Maya captures the soul by its neck. So Nama Chintamani, so it is said that Krishna, so when we the process to follow here is chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We chant and then we hear the names. So Nama Chintamani, Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. So that means that the holy name, Krishna, is transcendently blissful. It bestows all kind of spiritual benedictions. Because it is Krishna himself, the holy name Krishna is called Nama Prabhu. It's Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasures. Krishna's name is complete, and it is the form of transcendental mellow. So that means like anybody from the a material tongue, like we are chanting the name Krishna, a material tongue can never chant the name Krishna because Krishna belongs to the spiritual world. So when we chant Krishna with a material tongue, our jiva, the material tongue, eventually the spiritual tongue will take over, and our spiritual tongue of our spiritual body will chant the names of Krishna. The spiritual body is the only thing which can chant the name of Krishna because Krishna does not belong to this material conception. He is entirely spiritual, and the name Krishna originates in the spiritual realm, and it always remains in the spiritual realm. And the only person, so even though we might look like we are saying the word Krishna, but that is not the Shuddha Nama. The Shuddha Nama is entirely in the spiritual realm. Therefore, Krishna's name is, so it is not a material name under any condition. So you cannot condition it under any material circumstance, and it is no less powerful than Krishna himself. So Krishna is exactly same as Krishna, and since Krishna's name is not contaminated by material qualities, there is no question of Krishna's name being involved with Maya. So Krishna's name is always in the liberated platform, always spiritual, and it is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. And therefore, the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. So let's talk about the last learning objective here. So where Lord Shiva says that when he chants his prayers, the glories of the Lord, that will give all these benedictions. So here we have it simple here about chanting the names of Krishna. All glories of the Lord, they're all contained in the glory. So we don't have to have very elaborate prayers and composing. We have bhajans, Vaishnava bhajans, but they're all in alignment with the Vedic scriptures. But what is needed for us is chanting the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare. In this age, the spiritual revolution, it was recommended by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So if we go all over the India or even the world, there is chanting of the names are propagated in so many. If you go across India, so many places people chant the names of the Lord, but they all have some kind of origination from what has been preached by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu systematically started the Yuga Dharma, and that was his external reason for descent onto this material world. And so he demonstrated the Yuga Dharma. Kritheya Dhyayatho Vishnun Tretayam Yadato Makhe Dvapare Parithai Kalau Tatriyat Kirtan. So that means the Bhagavatam, this verse is 12.3.52. Whatever result was obtained in Satya Yuga by meditating on Vishnu, in the Treta Yuga, we can get that by sacrifices. So we can see that in many places in the Ramayana, we can see how fire sacrifices are performed. In Dwapara Yuga, by serving the lotus feet of the Lord. In the Kali, by simply chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So, and this is confirmed in the Vishnu Purana as well. Dhyayan Krite Yajas Yajne Tretayam Dwapare Archayam. So, Yadapnoti Tadapnoti Kala Sankirtakesham. So, in Kali Yuga, Krishna Sankirta Keshavam. So whatever is achieved by meditation in the Satya Yuga, the performance of sacrifice in the Treta Yuga, and by the worship of Lord Krishna's lotus feet in the Dwapara Yuga. So we can obtain that in this age of Kali by simply glorifying the name of Lord Keshava. So Jiva Goswami, so he confirms this he cites this in his Bhagavad Sandarbha. He cites words from the Brahma Vaivarta, so Vaivarta Purana, so where he says that in the age of Kali, the practices of austerity, whether it's yoga, meditation, deity worship, sacrifice, and so on, all of them with their various subsidiary functions cannot be properly carried out. And therefore, the chanting of the holy name is the way, Kevalam, the way to move towards our to get liberated from material existence and be in service of the Supreme Lord, and to move towards spontaneous love of devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to cleanse our heart, Cheto Darpanam Ajram Bhava Mahadavalmi Nirvarpanam Shreha Kairava Chandrika Vitranam Vidhavadu Jivanam Anandaham Budivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrtha Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vrede Sri Krishna Sankirtan. So glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust. So this song that is sung by Lord Shiva here is nothing but Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses. So Srimad Bhagavatam itself is a Krishna Sankirtan. So it is glory. So what you can see any place in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is singing the glories of Krishna. So glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of the conditioned life of repeated birth and death. So this Krishna Sankirtan is the prime benediction for humanity. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpanam Ajram Bhava Mahadavadi. So because it spreads, it's like it spreads its rays and it increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. And this enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. So we are very anxious to always taste the nectar, and that nectar is Krishna Prema, and the Krishna Nama is what we need to be tasting. So anything else we are tasting is just illusory. It has no factual existence. So even in this material world, even in this kind of the existence, in our existence, there is one reality, and that is Krishna. And we need to, by chanting the glories of Krishna and singing the glories of Krishna, we will be able to obtain, we will be able to move towards in that direction. So it's almost close to 7:10. So I'll stop here, and we can move on to any discussion points from there. And if I missed anything, I'm very sorry. And we can bring that up in the discussion. Panchakan Patrubhyascha Kraphatam Duprevacha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the beautiful realizations. Prabhu, is there a way that we can find out whether we are doing Namabhas or Namaparat? And if not, and if so, and if somebody is in the Namaparat stage, how do they, improve themselves, elevate themselves for another stage of Namabhas? So thank you, Prabhu.
So the question here is, if somebody is in a Namaparat, how is it that one can get out of those offenses and then move towards the next stage? So this is covered by many Vaishnava Acharyas, and there is a book actually written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which talks about every chapter of that is about a different aparad, and then it cites different scriptures of what is the method to get over a particular Namaprad. So it is a very detailed book. It runs for more than 70, 80 pages. So it'll be very hard to cover here. But you can also look at another book, which is a very wonderful book. It is called as The Art of Chanting, and that is written by Mahanadi Swami. And it's a very wonderful book, and one of the very exhaustive books I've seen on the names of Krishna, and on chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And there it lists, for every aparad, it lists what is the method to overturn that. But in general, if we see there, a common thread that we can see across the different nama aparadh is a significant level of repentance. A significant level of repentance to the level of crying to show how much we are repentant against committing that offense and constantly chanting in that mode. So that sincere repenting for that, for committing that offense. So every time we commit that offense, so if we commit the offense against by diminishing the glories of the name, then we have to undergo a significant amount of repentance against that by chanting. So we need to continue the chanting in that mode of repentance. So there is, but this is like a one-line summary I gave, which can be highly erroneous when you consider it out of context. So, but I would highly suggest that to consider reading the book they call it The Art of Chanting by Mahanidhi Swami, and it cites in detail different works written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other Vaishnava acharyas and from different scriptures, and it shows in detail. And then there is a separate chapter for Namabash, how of coming to that stage and what are the things that we get in that stage and how to get over that stage and then move to Shuddha Nama. So I hope that answers the question in a brief manner, but it's really an exhaustive literature. So
thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Very nice class today. I wanted to ask you, where can we obtain this book by Mahanidhi Swami? I've been looking for this particular book past couple years. If I asked in ISKCON Vrindavan or Mayapur, they say they do not carry Mahanidhi Swami's books. And I'm particularly looking for some of his books. Do you know where we can find it? There's also Vrindavan Mahatmya, etc.
A couple of years ago, I got this book from Krishna Culture. It was a shop here in Houston, and but I think they moved to Dallas, but they are still there online, and but it's there in Amazon.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, I also got it on Amazon. Yeah, it is available on
Amazon. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you so very much for the beautiful class. I just have two questions. The first one is actually a follow-up to the first question that was asked, which thank you, Mataji, for that question. I wanted to ask you, what is the name of the book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur?
The name of the book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I think it is called Nama Bhajana, I think. Something like that, but I do have to get back to you, Mataji. I don't remember that.
Okay.
Nama Bhajana, something like that, I think the book is. It's been a while since I read the book. So, something like that. But if you Google Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Nama Aparadh, Namabash, you can find that there are chapters on that, on Namabash. So.
Thank you for that. Also, I wanted to ask you if you could just speak a little more when you were talking about the material tongue and spiritual tongue. When we chant, if you could just say a little more about that, I found that very moving. So thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Okay. So Krishna's name is all spiritual. So we frequently, when we share with devotee, with people in our community, when they are first introduced to Krishna consciousness, we give them an example of to understand about Krishna's name. We say, okay, so this is a table. The word table is different from the actual table. So if you drink, if you want water, we say the word water. If you keep on saying water, it doesn't mean that you're going to be quenched. Your thirst is going to be quenched, but you do need the actual water to drink. things. So the name water and the actual water are different. So this is something that we share frequently when somebody first comes to Krishna consciousness to understand, to help them understand that the name Krishna is not same as like any other material word. So this is very similar to that. So we have not realized our spiritual form, and the name, the Shuddha Nama, will help us identify our spiritual body. And so that Shuddha Nama is always chanted by, so the Shuddha Nama, that is the pure name Krishna, the name Krishna is always in the spiritual domain. So there is no way we can contaminate it. And that Shuddha Nama is, even if chanted once, it is entirely in the spiritual domain and can be chanted only by the spiritual tongue. Therefore, our spiritual form, we have spiritual ear, spiritual nose, spiritual mouth. It's a spiritual body. So that spiritual body interacts with Krishna. So when we are chanting, so our spiritual mouth chants the name Krishna. And so during the Namaparad stage and as we move towards the better stages of chanting and all, we are chanting the name Krishna, but we are chanting with our material tongue, but that is not so we need to transcend that. And as we move towards Shuddha Nama, our spiritual tongue will be able to chant the name Krishna, because the name Krishna is all spiritual. So it comes from the spiritual world, it belongs to the spiritual world, and there is nothing material about the name Krishna. And therefore, since Krishna is all spiritual, Krishna's name is all spiritual, and the living entity is also spiritual, so we need to get out of the material, this illusion that we are this body, and then we'll be able to chant with our spiritual, in our original form as a spirit soul, we will be able to chant the names of Krishna.
Okay, Prabhuji, so just to clarify, once we fully get to Brahman realization, that's when we will be able to chant with our spiritual tongue. Am I understanding correctly?
So it's not about all these realizations and all, Mataji. It's more about we getting over the different offenses. So the material tongue keeps chanting, but at some stage the spiritual tongue will take over, and then the spiritual ears will be able to hear it. So the material tongue can never chant the name Krishna, because Krishna does not belong to. So we are just practicing first with the material tongue. We are practicing with the material tongue so that the spiritual tongue will take over. And because how can something with just matter, like the material tongue is just matter, so how can something which is just matter be able to chant something which is spirit? So a spirit will be able to chant the name, a spiritual name. So that's basically, and this basically comes from whatever I said here. I've cited that this whole thing about whatever I said about the spiritual tongue chanting the names of Krishna, it comes from the Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, and it was also cited by Mahanadi Swami in that in his thing. So in this art of chanting, so how Krishna's name is entirely uncontaminated by material qualities. So.
Hare Krishna, thank you so very much for your explanation, Prabhuji. Thank you again.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you so much for bringing up this topic. Thank you very much. I just thought of adding a little more and also clarifying. Is it a Sri Bhajana Rahasya that you're saying? Or?
It could be, Mataji. It could be. It's been a while, so I don't remember actually. It could be Sri Bhajana Rahasya. It could be.
Okay. And the other thing that I had come across regarding this spiritual tongue, to the question of how it's awakened, is it says, yes, as you were mentioning, you just keep chanting with practice and it goes on for a long time. And then suddenly, by the intervention of the spiritual potency headed by Srimati Radharani, she awakens the spiritual tongue at one point. So it's up to her based on the surrender of the devotee. So she awakens the spiritual tongue, and then this is I mean, it's not really in these words, but I'm saying it's kind of a little differently quoted, but it's there in Bhagavatham at one point. It is mentioned by the mercy of the chit potency of the Lord, the spiritual tongue gets awakened that is there beneath the material tongue. So I just wanted to add that.
Wonderful, Mataji. Thank you so much for sharing that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Prisimatji.
Any other discussion points?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class. I had a question. So, Prabhu, like we say, we are chanting, so the ultimate goal is to go back to Godhead. But I've also heard that, irrespective of, whatever the goal, but the main aim should be to serve Krishna and his devotees anywhere and everywhere. So, Prabhu, I just want to get clarified. Can you please help me?
So, Mataji, so going back to Godhead is synonymous with service. So, like for instance, even let's take some exalted Vaishnava devotees. So, even if they are present in visible to our material eyes, they are already in the liberated state. So you can look at our spiritual master lineage. They're all in the liberated state. So, but they are prakata. That means aprakata. So that means like if they are visible or invisible to our material life. So that means that they are already living, even when they are living here, they are with Godhead, they are in Vaikuntha, they are in the spiritual realm. So they are never, so that is those people, they are called as Uttama Adhikari. So they are already in this, whether even in this material world, they are already in the spiritual world, they are in this, but for out of their causeless, out of their mercy, they are being visible to the material, to our eyes. So and they set examples by their preachings and by their personal behavior. They set examples. So when they say things like, okay, so I am, it doesn't matter if I'm born again and again, but I need to be in the service of the Supreme Lord. When they make statements like this, it is an example, because they are already in the liberated state. So it's not like they're going to take birth again, or they have come here with a mission to help the Jiva souls to move towards in a spiritual, to move move forward in the spiritual path. So they've come here to liberate the living entities. So when we say back to Godhead, so it means that at any moment we can move towards the we don't. It's not like at the time of death we only after death that we are going to go towards. We may still be having this material body. Many Vaishnavacharyas, they have material bodies, but and that way they're visible to our eyes, but they're already in Vaikuntha, they're already in the spiritual realm because of the way they are. So, and the second, maybe the second aspect to this question also comes to if the question that you're asking is about considering back to Godhead as a goal in terms of moksha or liberation, then it is a goal which is not recommended as among by the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, because it still has a tinge of some kind of motivatedness which is not purely dovetailed with Krishna. in it. So where if it is whether it is whatever kind of liberation it might be, I'm not talking about Sayujya Mukti here, but I'm talking about the other four kinds of personal liberations in the Vaikuntha plan. But we cannot take that. But those kinds of liberation, they also, even after, what are they going to do after getting liberated? They are going to be in the service of the Lord. But there is still that desire there that they want to get liberated out of this material existence. But so that is what is the Gaudiya Vaishnavacharya is very clear there, that we need. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said this in the Udupi temple when he visited the followers of the Madhvacharya there, that the service to Krishna is the ultimate goal, as Panchama Purushartha, as the ultimate goal, and that encompasses everything else. So at any moment one can enter into the liberated platform. So that means when one is chanting, if one goes to the stage of chanting the names of Krishna in a pure mode, then one automatically gets liberated, and one can experience that by but they will be liberated from all the material influences. So does that sort of answer, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for such a wonderful class today. Are there any more questions for Prabhuji at this point?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. That was Brahma. Thank you so much. Very, very beautiful class. So, Prabhuji, which book Vrindavan Das Thakur has written, Prabhuji?
Chaitanya Bhagavatam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And I have one more question. Like, we always say, like, Krishna is the same. Like you also said in the, like when we chant water will not come, but when we chant Krishna will come. So we look at the deities of Krishna and we chant his holy name. So how to get that, realize that the name I am chanting is the same as the deities? Like, it's so difficult, Prabhuji. Miss, why every morning we chant, but I am very much stuck in there that I don't get realization that I'm chanting the same name as Krishna's. Like it's like it's how the name is the same. Like,
So I think, Mataji, part of this thing is what we are doing here in this kind of a discussions that we are having in the morning in the Bhagavatam class. And I think the most easy way to help us understand the non-difference between Krishna's name and Krishna is by hearing the glories of Krishna, whether it is Bhagavatam or whether we hear Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita, anything where we hear about the glories of Krishna. The more we hear, I think the more the realization will get firm. And on top of that, continuous chanting for many years will add on to that hearing. So no matter, like, there is a big difference. Okay, let's say that there is a person who is chanting the name for on their own. They're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare on their own. So somebody is coming to the ISKCON temple for the first time, and they are getting a beads out of their they have taken an initiative and they are starting to chant on beads. But So the realization and the way the person chants, that person chants, versus another person who has heard Prabhupada's lecture, when Prabhupada is speaking about the glories of Krishna, and when somebody has heard that, so there is a difference between these, between the quality of chanting in these two. So the more we hear the from Vaishnava Acharyas, the more steady will be our realizations while chanting, and we will be able to see. So and so in the beginning, so many techniques are given to develop this realization, but this realization is not that the name is non-different from the personality, the form of Krishna or his abode or anything, because everything is absolute. So if everything is absolute, so there is nothing relative there. So that means that there is no difference. Let's say that there is like a mountain in the spiritual world. Okay, so the top of the mountain and the bottom of the mountain, there is no difference, right? I mean, that is called absolute. So in the material world, if you take that mountain, like for example, if you have mountain, you may have a shadow on one side. You may not have shadow on the other side. You may have trees in one part of the tree. You may not have trees in the other part of the tree. But a spiritual tree is not like that. So it is absolute. So it means at the top of the tree, the same as the bottom of the tree, and that is same as the river. So they are all of the same quality there. So that means everything. So if that can be said for all the spiritual entities in the spiritual world. So in the same way, Krishna's name and Krishna's form are also non-different. So the more and more we hear from bona fide Vaishnava Acharyas, then the more steady will be our realization that Krishna's name is non-different from Krishna. And since we are all originally Krishna conscious entities, then that means that we already have that realization, and that has been forgotten over many births with accumulation of the dust in our heart, Cheto Darpana Marchanam, and therefore all we need to do is purify it by cleansing the dust, cleansing the dust, and we will get that realization. So does that answer the question, Mataji?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions for Prabhuji, we would like to wrap up the call here. So, Prabhuji, thank you so much once again for the wonderful class, and we're really grateful and look forward to having your association again in future. Thank you. Vanchakaltarubhyascha vasantubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय, His Grace Jayananda Gauranga Prabhuji ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam.